around 6:45 p.m., they went back to room 17. That was the last time Rhoda Mumbi was ever seen alive. Nicholas Koskei looked like he had the perfect life. Back in 2017, bro was flexing all over Instagram, calling himself a rich farmer and a millionaire. He worked for the United Nations, posted luxury lifestyle photos, and looked like the ultimate family man. Beautiful wife, 2 sons, fancy vacations, Christian image. But behind the scenes, his marriage to Rhoda Mumbi Mutua was falling apart. Rhoda had started suspecting Nicholas was cheating. He was coming home late, acting distant, and according to reports, he even spent Valentine's Day with another woman while Rhoda waited at home. She told friends and family she no longer trusted him. Now, instead of fixing the marriage like a normal person, prosecutors say Nicholas started planning something much darker. In July 2017, Nicholas suddenly switched up and started acting like the perfect husband again. He told Rhoda they should take a romantic weekend getaway to celebrate his birthday and work on their marriage, and Rhoda believed him. She thought this trip was going to save the relationship, but according to investigators, the trip was actually a setup for murder. The couple headed to Jacaranda Lake Elementaita Lodge for the weekend. And while booking the room, Nicholas reportedly became obsessed with one detail. The room had to have a bathtub. He told hotel staff his wife loved baths, but police later believed he was selecting the perfect crime scene. Before leaving, they dropped their 2 sons off with Rhoda's sister. Then they drove to the lodge together looking completely normal. They swam together, relaxed by the pool, took photos. Nicholas even sent a cheerful picture to the family WhatsApp group saying, "Greetings from Elementaita." Imagine getting that message not knowing a murder was about to happen. Later that evening, they ordered drinks, beer for him, ginger tea for her. Then, around 6:45 p.m., they went back to room 17. That was the last time Rhoda Mumbi was ever seen alive. A couple hours later, hotel staff noticed Nicholas acting strange. One waiter said Nicholas was sweating heavily and breathing hard. When asked what happened, Nicholas claimed he had just come back from a jog. Witnesses also said he kept pacing around pretending to call Rhoda and saying she wasn't answering her phone. Then, around 9:30 p.m., Nicholas asked the hotel staff for a spare key to the room. A security guard followed him to room 17. Nicholas opened the door, walked into the bathroom, then suddenly collapsed, dramatically shouting, "My wife has collapsed. Is there a doctor?" At first glance, the scene looked like a tragic accident. Rhoda was lying inside the bathtub. There was a bottle of Bailey's nearby and a glass sitting beside the tub. It looked like she had gotten drunk and drowned, but investigators immediately noticed things that didn't make sense. First, the bathroom floor was completely dry. No splashes, no wet footprints. Even the bath mat was dry, which is pretty weird for someone who supposedly drowned in a bathtub. Second, Nicholas had a fresh injury under his eye. And third, police noticed that while his wife's body was still in the room, Nicholas seemed more interested in scrolling through his phone than grieving. Then, before the autopsy even happened, Nicholas started changing his story. He told Rhoda's cousin that she was supposedly a drug addict. Then he admitted they had a scuffle. Then he claimed he had roughed her up around the neck. Bro was basically leaking the truth by accident. He even claimed he found a needle in her arm and removed it to protect the family's dignity. But then the autopsy results came back and completely destroyed his story. Rhoda did not drown. She died from mechanical strangulation, meaning someone physically choked her to death. And toxicology reports found 0 alcohol and 0 drugs in her body. That Bailey's bottle, police believed it was planted to stage the scene. Then investigators found something even more disturbing. Nicholas had allegedly searched online for things like head and neck injuries, drowning, and injecting drugs into veins, which made prosecutors believe this murder was carefully planned. Even after all this, the case dragged on for years. At one point, Nicholas reportedly pretended to be mentally unstable while in remand prison, rocking back and forth shouting. But once he was released on bond, the behavior suddenly disappeared. He went back to work, posted smiling family pictures online, and allegedly told people Rhoda had died of cancer. Meanwhile, Rhoda's family kept fighting for justice. Rhoda started spreading online as people demanded accountability. And finally, in March 2025, the truth caught up to him. Justice Richard Mwango found Nicholas Koskei guilty of murdering Rhoda Mumbi Mutua. The court ruled that the killing was deliberate, calculated, and staged to look like an accident. Nicholas Koskei was sentenced to life in prison. The man who spent years building an online image of success and perfection ended up becoming one of Kenya's most disturbing murder cases because you can fake a lifestyle online, but eventually the truth catches up.